Welcome back. South African state prosecutor says it will announce in 2 weeks whether they will reinstate corruption charges against former President Jacob Zuma. The decision will only be announced on March the 15th due to legal issues surrounding NPA head Sean Abraham's appointment. In 2005, Mr. Zuma was charged with corruption over a multi-billion-dollar arms deal. The charges were dropped shortly before he became president in 2009. The charges of money laundering and racketeering stemming from the controversial 1999 $5 billion arms deal have refused to go away. And community schools in Egypt are offering formal education to numerous refugees in the country. About 13,000 African refugee students are enrolled in community schools in Egypt.
Nusa Sleiman and her family arrived in Egypt as refugees 3 years ago to escape fighting at home in Sudan. Nusa comes from the Nuba Mountains of Sudan's South Kordofan state, a region which has seen vicious clashes between the government and rebel Sudanese People's Liberation Movement over the years. Despite living through years of insecurity and conflict, Nusa never missed school, and on arriving in Cairo, she was determined to continue learning. She now attends the Sacred Heart Church School, a community school that is supported by the United Nations Refugee Agency, UNHCR. The school has around 400 pupils, the majority from Sudan and South Sudan, and is one of over 70 such community refugee schools in Cairo.
Education is everything in our time. The best thing is for me to continue with my schooling so I can help my family.
Egypt currently hosts more than 221,000 refugees from 56 different countries, with Syria and Sudan alone accounting for 3/4 of refugees. The UNHCR also provides education grants to students and also supports the Ministry of Education with teacher training, school refurbishment and equipment, among other supplies.
Education is really important to me because when I grow up, I want to be able to help my community and my country.
Nusa wants to become a teacher in future. She says she also plans to return to Sudan one day and help others get an education so they too can have a better chance at building their lives.
Very uplifting. But staying in Egypt, in an effort to reduce fuel consumption and gradually decrease the country's carbon footprint, electric car charging stations are being introduced in the country. The stations were developed by Revolta, which has been studying the move and the necessary infrastructure since 2015. The company launched the stations in February in its first round and plans to reach 300 stations by 2020. Each station costs roughly 700,000 to 1 million Egyptian pounds to manufacture.
The first phase, which was inaugurated on the 11th of this month, consists of 65 stations spread over Cairo, Giza, Alexandria, Port Said, Ismailia, Suez, and the Red Sea Governorate. Of these 65 stations, 12 were developed in cooperation with Wataniya Petroleum, owned by the armed forces, and the rest of the stations are located in various locations, including malls, hotels, universities, sporting clubs, and any other public location accessible to many people, and where cars can be parked.
While the prices of electric cars are still much more expensive than regular fuel-operated vehicles, Revolta has plans with the Egyptian Trade Ministry to ease the financial burden of buying Teslas and Hyundais, making them more affordable for mass consumption. According to Revolta's chief executive, Mohammed Badawi, the company aims to offer electric cars for 250,000 Egyptian pounds.
Charging with electricity is cleaner and safer. Often you'd hear that when people go to gas stations to fill up their tanks, you'd find that the fuel has been mixed with water and things like that. But with electricity, it's guaranteed. At the end of the day, it's electricity.
The move comes as many Egyptians still struggle with high prices after the government introduced a series of austerity measures to secure a $12 billion International Monetary Fund loan deal. Some of these measures included lifting subsidies on fuel. As a result, Egyptian car owners may spend hundreds of Egyptian pounds to fill up their tanks, but electric cars cost much less to charge. The cost of fully charging an electric vehicle ranges from 50 to 60 Egyptian pounds, and cars can cover a distance of 250 to 320 kilometers.
Because of the rise in the cost of gasoline, I believe this will be a very economical thing in Egypt, because it will save a lot of money spent on fuel. Besides, it will not need maintenance. Therefore, it will save a lot of time and money.
After Egypt floated the currency in November 2016, the Egyptian pound lost nearly half its value. The government hopes that the reforms will help kickstart its ailing economy after a popular uprising in 2011 drove tourists and foreign investors away. Let's take you back to Kenya, where residents of its poorest counties say they expect to see at least a third of oil revenues injected into development projects in Turkana. Oil was discovered in 2012 in Turkana County, a vast remote region long neglected by successive governments. Kenya's National Statistics Office says 88% of people in Turkana live below the poverty level, compared with 45% nationally.
In the decades before oil was discovered in the northern Kenyan region of Turkana South, 100,000 poor residents living in arid scrubland relied on a lone church-run health center in Lokita town for medical help. Seeing the potential benefits of oil, residents of the poorest of Kenya's 47 counties now want central government to make up for decades of neglect by plowing nearly a third of expected oil revenues back into Turkana. Parliament passed a draft bill in 2016 allocating 20% of any state oil revenue to local government and 10% to communities living where crude was discovered, leaving 70% for the central government in Nairobi. But President Uhuru Kenyatta never signed the bill. A revised version due to be debated in Parliament this month cuts the regional government share to 15%, with only 5% for local communities.
The money allocated to the people of Turkana cannot be able to solve their problems. This 30% that has been allocated is not enough. Will we use 20% for the country and 10% for the community so we can tackle poverty? Who cannot see that we don't have enough water, we don't have enough food, we still don't have enough hospitals, our children still don't have schools, people are still sleeping hungry. If they cannot offer us 30 to 20%, let them give us 15% of our oil, because we live where the oil is found. We are the custodians of this land in Turkana.
Most of Kenya's oil blocks have not been explored. Those owned by Tullow and its partners, Africa Oil Corp and Total SA, hold an estimated 750 million barrels. While that's less than Africa's frontier oil countries such as Uganda and Ghana, exports scheduled to start in 2021 would earn the government $1.2 billion a year at peak production at current prices. Now that's about 10% of annual revenue, comparable to the country's biggest export, tea. Tullow has already spent 1.5 billion shillings, which is about $15 million on community projects. But the row over revenue sharing has eaten into the oil company's tight timelines.
I think that our project timelines are very clear, that we have a financial investment decision by the end of 2018, and then we move towards the development after that. It's important to have the legislative framework in time for the final investment decision at the end of 2019.
A Petroleum Ministry official says delegations will visit established producers like Nigeria and Oman to seek advice on revenue sharing.
Thank you for watching Network Africa. At this time, I'm Millicent Walker.